If you found something that works and you like it, then do that. Absolutely. If you're going to go low maintenance, you can't just say, oh, well, I'll just let my fish live in dirty water.
I've seen firsthand evidence that this works. But on a personal level, I'm 3 months in to a trial.
Now mine might fail. This could crash and burn. And I'll be back in front of this camera saying, guess what, guys? I failed. And we have hard rural water, and he does not really do water changes. And he has a large tank with a lot of discus, and those discus from all different sources have thrived in that low-tech natural aquarium. I think the conversation around discus keeping scares a lot of people off from keeping one of the coolest fish in the hobby. Hey, it's Brock here with Uncommon Aquatics, and today we are going to be stocking discus in my 110-gallon acrylic aquarium that I've been showcasing in my recent videos. I'm going to be taking some discus out of one of my other tanks, the 125 behind me, and then I've got a new discus right here floating in the bag. Now, before we add the fish, I want to touch on what this video is going to talk about. I'm considering a title for this video that is along the lines of, you don't need to do all those excessive water changes to keep discus. And that's going to be the kind of statement that will get some people riled up. In particular, there's a channel that I had been watching called Discus North, who has beautiful discus, and he only talks about discus. But he's been on kind of a toxic rampage lately. Just every video is just angry and complaining and like arguing with a wall about how his way of keeping discus is the only way. Well, I know someone locally who lives 30 miles from me who has a 210-gallon discus tank and never does water changes. He's had the tank set up for a year. He got his discus when they were small, and they've gotten 3 times larger. So I want to have the conversation about, do you have to do frequent water changes with discus? And even if you don't have to, maybe should you? I think it's an interesting conversation. But I don't want to do all that talking while this guy's still floating in the bag. He's already been in there a little bit. Let's get the fish in there. We'll have the other conversation. I want to take suggestions from you guys about what else to put in here with the discus. I'm wanting to, this 110-gallon, I'm wanting to have at least 8 discus in here. And then I'm debating between like neon tetras or rummy nose tetras or maybe rosaline barbs, Denison barbs, some different options I'm considering to put in with the discus. I'll definitely probably be putting some Cory catfish, and I've already got shrimp breeding in here. But we'll get into all that in a little bit. Right now, let's get these fish out of the bag. So the new discus is a blue diamond. And all of my discus that I have now are different variations, but they all have a more blue than anything to their color. So I'm definitely in the market for some discus with different colorations, red or yellow or white, whatever the case may be. That, I believe, is the smallest of my discus, but he has a nice shape to him. If you look at the rounding on him. A lot of people who are really into discus, it matters a lot to them the way the proportions of the fish are. Now we're going to go grab the other discus out of the 125. And I just want to tie a bow on the conversation I was having earlier. Discus North is probably a phenomenal guy and an expert fish keeper and awesome with discus. But I brought his name into this video because I think it's important the way we talk to each other and about each other when we disagree about a hobby that we all care about. It's okay for you and I, or me and him, to disagree on something without being hateful or having so much negativity. I think it can be a little bit toxic when you're just negative all the time. Okay, so right here at the front is the one I've had the longest. I've had that guy about 3 months. He has gotten bigger, although I wouldn't call it rapid growth. Let's see if I can catch him before he realizes what's happening. Okay, we've got one of them in the net. Okay, this is the newer discus. He's a little bit bigger. He's got some different coloration to him. but he still has kind of a blue tone, but he's got more striping on him and more of a mix of colors. All right, here goes Discus number 3. This one I think might be a wild caught, but I'm not sure. He's closer in color to the second Discus that we put in, but he's got more brown on him than either of the other two. Okay, here's the largest of the 3 Discus, feeding on some blackworms off the bottom. Those are my pet blackworms he's eating, by the way. This is a very skinny fish. That's what I noticed when I brought him home. I haven't had him very long. Hoping that the reduced competition for food in this aquarium will help him thrive a little better. And here we have the other 2 that are smaller. The solid blue is the one I got today. And this is the guy I've had for months. So, now you can see all 3 of them. They've been out foraging for a little while. There are some frozen bloodworms that have sunk to the bottom, but some of those that he's eating are live blackworms. All right, so now we've got our 3 Discus in here, and they are, of course, hiding when I'd love to see them right up here at the front of the glass, showing off for you guys. But I'll have to get some close-ups on the fish and splice those shots over this footage so you can see how these fish are going to look. And once they grow out, and I've got 8 to 10 of them, I think this tank, even with the scratches on it that it has because it's an acrylic tank, I think it's going to be beautiful. And it's going to be a showpiece in my fish room. And these are going to be fish that I can love and enjoy. So next, let's talk about tank mates. I want your suggestions for tank mates. What do you think the best thing for this tank to go along with those Discus is? Now, I'll throw in the caveat. I've already got some orange shrimp in here that have eggs that they are carrying. So there'll be a bunch of shrimp in here soon, minus what get eaten. That's part of it. I've also got microorganisms in here. I've got blackworms, and I've got snails, and then I've got 2 super red bristlenose plecos. I love the super red bristlenose. Beautiful fish that actually cleans your glass a lot better than a true or a common plecostomus, while staying much smaller and being more attractive. So I've got a couple bristlenose, the shrimp, the scuds and the isopods, the blackworms, snails. Now 3 Discus. I'm on the search for Discus of other colors. What do you think is the perfect tank mates? I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some panda cories. I've got Stairby cories in the 125 these came out of. But now let's talk about the statement that you don't need water changes for Discus. I think the conversation around Discus keeping scares a lot of people off from keeping one of the coolest fish in the hobby. If you talk to the average hobbyist who's really into it, not just one aquarium, but who really is into fish keeping, they will tell you they'd like to keep Discus, but they're kind of scared off that it's too difficult or they couldn't do it. And I think that mentality causes a lot of us to miss out on part of the hobby. I never kept Discus for years and years and years because I thought they were so difficult. And then I really dug into my research, and it started actually from Father Fish. And some people get mad when I talk about Father Fish, and he's not the beginning and end of all aquarium knowledge, but he has a Discus in one of his aquariums. And I saw it, and I thought, is he going to great lengths to break all his protocol over this Discus? And the answer is no. He does it just like all his other aquariums. They are natural aquariums with a complete food web and more plants than fish, and they do perfectly fine without water changes. He does maybe a couple water changes a year, just for the sake of doing it, I guess. But primarily, he does not do water changes. I said, okay, just because he's doing it doesn't mean it's a good idea. Let's do some research. And I started searching for people who keep Discus without excessive water changes. Now, saying I do a once a week 25% water change on every aquarium in my fish room, that's just normal. And when I say no water changes, I mean excessive water changes. Some people claim that you have to do daily 50% water changes or every other day 50% water changes for Discus. And that you have to carefully monitor all your parameters all the time and be playing mad scientist with your tanks. And I'm not willing to do that. I will keep fish that are well kept with my style of fish keeping. And if I find out that Discus don't do well with my style of fish keeping, then I'll be disappointed that I'm not able to keep them. But when you have a lot of tanks, it's enough to manage all of them without saying this one is getting 10 times the maintenance of all the others. So I'm going through this kind of abstract debate where I'm watching videos, I'm reading forums, I'm in the Facebook groups, this guy said this guy said that. And then I met someone in real life who lives by me. I'm in Kansas, he's actually in Oklahoma, but we're close together, and we have hard rural water. It's going to be pretty similar parameters coming out of our tap, and he does not really do water changes. He said maybe every once in a while, but mostly he doesn't do them. And he has a large tank with a lot of Discus. I think he might have said 12 or 15. And he bought them small. And he didn't buy them from some premium, far-off supplier that shipped them all in together. He picked them up one at a time as he found them in stores. And those Discus, from all different sources, have thrived in that low-tech natural aquarium. Now, mine might fail. This could crash and burn. And I'll be back in front of this camera saying, guess what, guys? I failed. I'll come right here and I'll tell you that what I'm saying today is wrong, if that's what happens. And I'll put a link at the end of this video to a future follow-up video whenever I publish the follow-up on this. And then you can see, is what I said today accurate? But here's what I would say if you want to keep Discus without doing obsessive, over-the-top maintenance schedules. Number one, you should have a natural aquarium. And what that in general means, I'm going to simplify it a lot. If you want the details, watch the Father Fish videos. I have one about his method. He's got 1,000. You should put a rich, nutrient-dense substrate down about 1 inch deep of, your potting soil or your dirt. And then twice as thick as that, you should have a sand cap. And then you should put a lot of plants in. There are 30 or 40 plants in this aquarium. Now, my aquarium does not look like a jungle because my plants are small. But all of these plants right here along the front of the glass, those are out of my other aquariums, and those are going to spread like crazy. They carpet across. And I showed it in yesterday's video about my Father Fish tank, how those plants, that exact same plant that I took that off of, is just exploding across the bottom of the aquarium. These are Amazon swords. There are a ton of Amazon swords in the back. Sword plants get huge, and they eat up a lot of nitrates. These Anubias plants are slower growers, but they're hardy. I've got a bunch of Anubias. I've got Java Fern. I've got Cryptocorn in the back. I've got Vallisneria up here. If you're going to go low maintenance, you can't just say, well, I'll just let my fish live in dirty water. You have to filter the water with the plants. And some hardcore Discus people will get mad at me saying that, but I'm sharing what I believe to be true. That's all any of us can do, is say what we believe to be true. And if you like going through that maintenance process and making sure that your water is perfect all the time, it's not my way. I don't think it's a natural way to keep fish, but good for you. If you found something that works and you like it, then do that. Absolutely. For me, I'm going to try to prove to the viewer that this method works. The next thing I would generally say is, don't set up a brand new aquarium and put Discus in it. But I just did that. And it is what it is. This tank has only been set up for 8 days. Now, to counteract that, I'm running a canister filter on it. I took sponges from other aquariums and put in the canister filter. I put in a dose of Quick Start. Half of these rocks came out of other aquariums. Half of the plants came out of other aquariums. So all those rocks, all those plants, they have a biofilm on them. They have beneficial bacteria growing on their surfaces. I created rock piles that are microfauna out of my other tanks, and those are just crawling with critters and creepy crawlies. And all of that together makes this closer to a seasoned tank. Because we're not talking about just cycled. You don't want, if you just take an empty tank and cycle it, that's not seasoned. There are not all of the other recipes of life in that aquarium. So my advice is put these into a seasoned aquarium. So I tried to season a new aquarium in this case. There you can see that blue diamond coming out to the front. He's so beautiful. Just with the shape, that soft blue color, and his orange-red eyes. Just a phenomenal looking fish. So I've done a lot of talking, shared a lot of opinions. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I also hope that you go into the comments section, tell me what you agree with and what you disagree with, so we can have a conversation. Tell me what fish I should stock in here with the Discus. And I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.